Okay, commission meeting for July 23rd will come to order, please. City Clerk, would you roll call?
Commissioner Abraham, Commissioner Galt,
Present.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Here.
Commissioner Wilson,
Present.
Mayor Kaler.
Present. Tonight for our invocation, we have Father Eno with St. Francis de Sales Church, and our Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be Morgan Guess. So Father Eno, if you'll come up, please.
It's my pleasure to be with you tonight to do this invocation. And I would like to take us back in our church. We like to go back a little bit as we look into the future. And I prayed a prayer of Archbishop Carroll, was the cousin of Charles Carroll, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. We pray thee, O Almighty and eternal God, who through Jesus Christ has revealed thy glory to all nations, to preserve the works of thy mercy, that your church, being spread throughout the world, may continue with unchanging faith in the confession of thy name. We pray thee, O God of might, wisdom, and justice, through whom authority is rightly administered, laws are enacted, and judgment decreed. Assist with your Holy Spirit of counsel and fortitude the President of the United States, that his administration may be conducted in righteousness and be eminently useful to thy people, over whom he presides. By encouraging due respect for virtue and religion, by a faithful execution of the laws in justice and mercy, and by restraining vice and immorality. Let the light of thy divine wisdom direct the deliberations of Congress and shine forth in all the proceedings and laws framed for our rule and government, so that they may tend to the preservation of peace, the promotion of national happiness, the increase of industry, sobriety, and useful knowledge, and may perpetuate to us the blessing of equal liberty. We pray for His Excellency, the Governor of this state, for the members of the Assembly, for all judges, magistrates, and other officers who are appointed to guard over political welfare, that they may be enabled by thy powerful protection to discharge the duties of their respective stations with honesty and ability. We recommend likewise to thy unbounded mercy all our brethren and fellow citizens throughout the United States, that they may be blessed in the knowledge and sanctified in the observance of thy most holy law, that they may be preserved in union and in that peace which the world cannot give, and after enjoying the blessings of this life be admitted to those which are eternal. We ask this through the same Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Eno.
Thank you.
Morgan, would you like to come up?
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Morgan. Okay, we have a recognition tonight for the retirement of Jan Saxon. And if I could get the Chief and Sergeant Will Gilbert to come up here with Jan, please. Jan worked for 23 and a half years with the Paducah Police Department. And they will certainly miss her and her cookies. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
So, Jan, we just want you to know how much we appreciate you and your service to the city of Paducah and to the citizens of Paducah. And I know you were well loved by the Paducah Police Department. I could see that when I went to your retirement. And I know that all the men there will miss you greatly. So I would like to present you with a Duchess of Paducah.
Thank you.
To all to whom these presents shall come, greeting. Know ye that Janet M. Saxon is named a Duchess of Paducah. I hereby confer this honor with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto appertaining. In testimony whereof I have caused these letters to be made patent, and the seal of the city to be hereunto affixed, done at Paducah the 28th day of June in the year of our Lord 2013. Gail Kaler, Mayor. So, you know, we did it a little bit before you
Well, that was
retired.
my last day of work.
Yes, that's good.
I rested 2
And
days.
would you all like to say anything about Jan? I mean, glowing terms, of course. I think Sergeant Gilbert worked with, have you worked with her longer than anyone at the police department, or?
Well, no, I mean, several chiefs have been here a lot longer than I have, but they're working with her. But I mean, I've been her direct supervisor, probably the longest drug commander that she's had. So I've been with her since 2004. So.
Stacy, you have anything you want to say?
Hey, she's her mother.
I could tell that. Hi, Robin. I could tell that when I was at her retirement party. So, thank you for everything,
you.
Jan.
Thank you.
Chief, do you want to say anything
I
about it?
just want to say, just add what he stated earlier, and the fact that she actually worked for 5 police chiefs, and she worked for 10 narcotics commanders. It takes a special person to work with guys in narcotics. Yes. So somebody special. So it's a credit to her and her personality that she can work with narcotics detectives that long, because most people can't.
Congratulations.
And Brandon, I didn't mean to miss you, but you must have been behind Keith when I was looking back that way. So. All right. I'd like to call Alan Treese up. The Paducah Track and Club, it's a joint effort between the Oscar Cross Boys and Girls Club and the Parks Department. And they have some exciting news, and I just wanted everyone in Paducah to see these amazing young people here and the effort that Alan has put in to what they're going to be doing here. It's very exciting.
Thank you, Mayor and City Commission. We appreciate you guys having us here tonight. Just to give you a little bit of background, and then I'll let the kids kind of introduce themselves to everybody. The Paducah Track Club is a joint venture with the Paducah Parks Department and the Oscar Cross Boys and Girls Club. The kids we've got tonight, along with 2 other young men, have qualified for the AAU Junior Olympics. That's the national championships for track and field. They've qualified throughout a process that includes going to the state level, qualifying there, and then qualifying at the regional level, which was in Cincinnati a couple weeks back. So these kids have gone against the best, not just in the state of Kentucky, but also in this region. And next week in Detroit, they'll go against the top 100 kids from across the United States. And a couple of the kids are actually ranked in the top 5 of their event going into it. So they've done a fantastic job this summer, and we're really excited to make the trip and represent Paducah really well. The 2 gentlemen that aren't here are LeBran McMullen and Adonze Sains. Those are our 9 and 10-year-old boys, and they qualify in the 800. But I'll let the rest of the crew introduce themselves to you guys.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm Elijah Grant, and I run.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I run the 1500 and the 800.
I'm Malachi Kirby, and I do high jump.
I'm Jaden Freeman. I do the 100 and 200.
Well, I want them to know how proud we are of them, and so proud of our Paducah youth and what you've accomplished. And I just want you to know that we'll be there with you in spirit, even though we can't be there with you. Did the commissioners have anything they want to say to them?
Mr. Rhodes, you look like you have a question. No, they've done a great job, a lot of hard work this summer, and I'm extremely proud of them, and so are their parents. You know, there's a lot of talent here in Paducah, not just in athletics, and it's great to showcase it, you know, across the country. And hopefully we'll come back and visit you guys here in about a week or two with some good news and hopefully some medals that we can show off.
You come back, okay?
Is this
We'll
part
have
of
you here.
what used to be the remember the Blue Diamond Track Club?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Coach Cecil Ward, who's a former track coach at Paducah Tillman for years, had a Blue Diamond Track Club several years back, and Danielle Carruthers, who is the defending silver medalist in the World Championships from here in Paducah, participated in that track club here in Paducah. Jason Ward, Coach Ward's son, was a national record holder in the triple jump and All-American collegiately and in the Olympic trials twice. Participate in that Blue Diamond Track Club, and the purpose for the current track club is to try to give our kids the same opportunity and capitalize on some of their potential in track and field, and give them opportunities to go out and see the world and compete in a positive way against the best from around the country.
I just want to say congratulations to the runners and best of luck to you. Thank you for representing us, and thank you, Alan, for your leadership at the Oscar Cross Boys and Girls Club and taking this on as an extra activity. My guess is you probably still need money to help fund this group and to fund Oscar Cross. So if you want to give us your address, where to mail it, we'll be happy to.
We're always accepting. I feel like I'm at the sing-a-thon. We're always accepting donations. The Boys and Girls Club. Obviously, we're trying to always expand our programs. Our website is ocbgc.org. And our phone number is 270-444-9124. Not soliciting donations, but definitely support.
I'm doing that for you.
Yeah, that's great. Volunteers, ideas on programs, we're always open to it. But when you have great kids like this, it's easy to come up with good ideas and fun ways to spend your time.
So if somebody wants to help these young people here tonight with this trip, would they just make a notation on their check?
Yeah, if they want to contact the Boys and Girls Club or the Parks Department, we work together, frequently on a lot of programs. Contact either one of us, and we can definitely make sure that that's taken care of. There are expenses and different things we want to do while we're in Detroit. We'll probably go visit the University of Michigan. Alasia's going to be a junior this year, and she's going to be looking at college choices. So there's always things like that we like to do on these trips. So, anything like that would be more than appreciated, and they can contact the Boys Club or the Parks Department, either one.
Okay, and you leave Saturday?
We leave Sunday. We'll be gone Sunday to Saturday.
Okay. All right.
A whole week, all right, great.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye. Okay, City Manager, any additions or deletions?
We do have an addition. I believe Commissioner Galt is going to add the item.
All right. Commissioner Galt.
I move that the reading of the minutes for June 25th, July 2nd, and July 9th, 2013 City Commission meetings be waived, and that the minutes of said meetings prepared by the City Clerk be approved as written.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All right, City Clerk.
Commissioner Galt? Aye. Commissioner Rhodes?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Kaler?
Aye. Down here.
When do we add the item?
It'll be item E.
Okay. Has that been announced yet that it's going to be item E?
Item E under municipal orders, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
The addition, item E.
Okay.
Okay, we have a resolution tonight. We met, has it been 3 or 4 weeks ago, with the fiscal court, and at that time a suggestion was made on a resolution. We have formulated that resolution, and did they read that last night? Yes. At the county? So we're reading it tonight here at the city. And just to give you a little background information on it, the U.S. government's Department of Energy owns and has operated Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant in McCracken County for 62 years. And on May 24th, 2013, DOE made a decision resulting in the impending closure of that plant. The closure of the plant will not only adversely affect the lives of 1,000+ workers who will be displaced by the plant's closure, but also the economy of Paducah McCracken County. So both the City Commission and the Fiscal Court, through a joint resolution, demands that DOE take immediate action to implement cleanup strategies and allow the community to be a partner in determining the fate of the Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant. And that was some of the things that we talked to them about when we went to Washington. that we want to be a partner with them on this. We want them to hear us. And so I will read this joint resolution. A resolution of the McCracken County Fiscal Court and the Board of Commissioners of the City of Paducah, closure of the Department of Energy's Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant, a call to action. Whereas the United States government's Department of Energy owns and has operated for 62 years the Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant located in northwest McCracken County near Paducah, Kentucky. Whereas our community has unequivocally supported the operation of this key component of our nation's energy and national security apparatus during that period at significant social and human sacrifice. Whereas on May 24, 2013, suddenly and without explanation, the Department of Energy made a decision resulting in the impending closure of the Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant, which action by itself has dire economic and social consequence for our community with the loss of at least 1,100 jobs. Whereas the Department of Energy has before it proposals by private companies that would utilize assets at the plant site to create economic opportunity immediately and over the long term, specifically the global laser enrichment proposal. Whereas the community understands the Department of Energy plan to the extent one exists for the site to transition from operation to a containment state, delaying decontamination and decommissioning to the site until at least 2034. Locking the gate and watching it rust, thus letting our children and grandchildren deal with the nuclear waste dump this action will create. Whereas the Department of Energy at our sister communities with the decommissioned gaseous diffusion plant, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Portsmouth, Ohio, has treated the local community and workforce far differently than the department's plan for Paducah. Whereas our Kentucky congressional delegation and the governor have urged the Department of Energy, Secretary Moniz, to implement a long-term economic development and immediate cleanup plan for Paducah that preserves jobs, addresses environmental issues, and treats our community equitable to the sister sites. Whereas the Secretary of Energy, Ernest Moniz, has publicly testified before Congress on June 7, 2013, that he supports the objectives proposed by the congressional delegation, the governor, and our community. Whereas despite repeated promises from the Department of Energy, the community sees no action to implement these recommendations, but instead sees significant efforts by the Department of Energy to delay meaningful cleanup activities and further delay decisions on the proposals before it. And whereas the community will not accept continued inaction from the Department of Energy or the department's proposed abandonment of the obligations at that site. Now, therefore, the City Commission of Paducah and McCracken County Fiscal Court, together with the United Steelworkers Local 550, Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce, and Paducah Economic Development, demand that the Department of Energy to immediately do the following: act on proposals submitted in the department's expression of interest process, specifically the global laser enrichment proposal for Paducah. Implement cleanup strategies for Paducah, allowing USEC employees to transfer to Department of Energy contractors as they are laid off, and fully fund cleanup activities at the plant on a continuing and equitable basis. Allow the community to become a full partner, open partner, in determining the fate of the Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant with the Department of Energy. And that will be signed by Judge Newberry and me, and a copy will be sent.
Sorry.
Is this for our, yeah. I move that the following resolution,
You just read it.
okay, be adopted.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kayler.
Aye. I do think our trip to Washington, I think it made a difference. I believe that they understood where we were coming from as a community, that we showed our human side to them, and that, we're faces down here. We're not just numbers on a piece of paper to them. We have to continue, though. We can never let off of this. We have to continue to show our faces up there, to show, and we need the whole community to be behind us on this. It takes everyone, not just the elected officials. So we will be doing a September trip with the chamber fly-in, and that will be one of our main things that we will be going. We may even be going a day early to meet with some of the Department of Energy officials, because by the middle of August they will have looked at all of those proposals. So we'll know a little bit more when we go up there in early September.
September 11th and 12th. We already have a nice sized group going, so we would encourage other community leaders that want to be on that trip to please go as well.
And you know, we've also talked about getting some of our surrounding states to support us on this too, and we're working on that angle too. The more elected officials, even in other states, that we can get up there talking about the Paducah plant and the importance, because these states join us critically, especially Illinois. So just keep hammering. That's all we can do. But yet, it has to be in an atmosphere of cooperation, and that's what we pointed out to them when we were up there. All right, we'll go on to appointments. Commissioner Rhodes?
I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the action of Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
What?
The appointment, would you read the first part of that, please?
The appointment?
The next page.
Oh, of course.
This one? Oh, sorry, Commissioner Rhodes.
You read that part first.
You know, when you get on your soapbox about something, you just forget everything else.
Sorry.
Whereas, subject to the approval of the Board of Commissioners, I hereby reappoint John Shadle as a member of the Municipal Housing Commission. These terms will expire July 22nd, 2017. Commissioner Rhodes?
I now move that the Board of Commissioners approve the action of Mayor Kaler in reappointing John Shadle as a member of the Municipal Housing Commission.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kaler.
Aye. We'll go on to municipal orders. Commissioner Wilson?
Upon the recommendation of the city manager, the Board of Commissioners of the City of Paducah order that the personnel changes on the attached list be approved.
Seconded.
Cindy?
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. I would just point out, we do have the retirement of Larry Coley. He is a supervisor in the Engineering Public Works Street Department, and he is retiring with 25 years of service. Just like to acknowledge his service.
Good.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kaler.
Aye. Commissioner Galt, please.
I move that a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Approving the Transfer of Real Property Located at 505 Fountain Avenue to the Urban Renewal and Community Development Agency of Paducah, Kentucky" be adopted.
Second.
Steve?
I really have no comments. This will just be added to our inventory of properties within Fountain Avenue.
Got any hot prospects?
Not at this time, but we are getting lower on vacant properties in Fountain Avenue, so it'll help.
It overlooks a very nice boulevard.
I'm sorry?
It looks over the nice fountain
Absolutely.
over the boulevard.
All right. Any discussion? City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kaler.
Aye. Commissioner Rhodes, please.
Okay. I move that a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Adopting a Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan and Procurement Code for the Recovery Center Community Development Block Grant Program for the City of Paducah, Kentucky, and authorizes the mayor to execute the plan document," be adopted.
Second.
Steve?
We're just readopting some existing plans that we have in place for the CDBG Recovery Center. Just taking care of paperwork at this time.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kaler.
Aye. Commissioner Wilson, please.
I move that a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Authorizing the Mayor to Execute an Application and All Documents Necessary for Grant in the Amount of $5,000 through the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety for Officer Enforcement Overtime for the Paducah Police Department" be adopted.
Seconded.
Hi, Chief.
How you doing, Mayor? Commissioners? We're one of 4 cities, Louisville, Lexington, Frankfort, and Paducah. The 4 of us were basically going to be awarded some grant monies, basically for distracted driving, texting while driving. So we were asked to basically apply for this. So we're in a group of 4.
All right, that's good. Did I read that they're no longer going to fund the COPS program, or?
Well, I didn't see that. I know there are some issues with COPS funding, but I can't see them just completely not funding at all.
Maybe reducing it?
Or reducing it, but I can't see them not funding that.
Okay, and tell the public what that goes for.
With COPS grants, go for a lot of different things. They go for hiring. We've been a part of that process several times. CHIRPS hiring. It may go for community policing initiatives.
I think
but it's huge.
Thing.
It's huge, and quite frankly, my experience is if we get away from that, it would be disastrous for a lot of communities. This is about reducing crime and working proactively, not just reacting to crime. So it would be a mistake.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any discussion? City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kayler.
Aye. Okay, we'll go to the addition. Commissioner Galt, please.
I move that a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order of the City of Paducah, Kentucky Approving a Construction Overage Agreement among the City of Paducah, Kentucky, the County of McCracken, Kentucky, GPEDC, Inc., and TeleTech Services Corporation with respect to a public project authorizing the execution of the construction overage agreement and other documents related thereto be adopted."
Second.
Okay. City Manager, do you want to
Sure.
talk about this?
Later in the agenda is a ordinance first reading to approve the construction contract for the building for TeleTech Services Corporation that will be jointly owned by the city and McCracken County and will be funded by the city and McCracken County as well as Paducah Economic Development. The city and county and Paducah Economic Development had formally agreed to come together to provide $3 million of funding for the building. We went through the competitive procurement process that resulted in a what will be a contract price of $3,296,000. So there's $296,000 there in what will be the contract amount that exceeds what has formally been agreed to and put in place by interlocal agreement between the city, county, and PED. So having said that, the purpose of this municipal order is to approve what we're calling an overage agreement that acknowledges the need to identify the $296,000 additional money that's needed to finance the contract and to set forth the obligation on the part of Paducah Economic Development Corporation for $250,000 of that amount, and for TeleTech Services Corporation for $46,000 of that amount. So that's the effect of the overage agreement, and with that in place and the signature of both TeleTech and PED, and I do have a copy of the overage agreement signed by TeleTech, and certainly one is forthcoming from PED. We will have the assurance in place that all the funding necessary to pay for the building in the amount of $3,296,000 will be in place.
Moving on. That'll be exciting. All right. City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kayler.
Aye. We'll go into our ordinances adoptions, and we talked about that at our last meeting. Commissioner Galt, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance approving the final report of the Paducah Planning Commission on the proposed zone change for property located at 161 Pecan Court, and amending the Paducah zoning ordinance so as to effect such rezoning. This ordinance is summarized as follows. Rezone property located at 161 Pecan Court from R1 low-density residential zone to R4 high-density residential zone, and amending the Paducah zoning ordinance to effect such rezoning.
Seconded.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. City Clerk?
I want to say something nice
Okay.
about Rick and Steve. Yeah, I see Steve. There's Rick. A little bird told me that you guys actually went out there with radar guns and stopwatches and to allay any concerns that the entrance of the parking lot might not be exactly the right spot, that you all determined that in fact where the entrance of the parking lot was the slowest speed part of Pecan Drive. And I think that's pretty neat that you all took your time and effort and a busy schedule to go out there and just check the checkers and make sure it's right. So Little Bird told me that. Well, it ought to be recognized. So there you go. Good job.
Well, I think this is going to be a really great addition along Glanville Road there, and it will be. I've seen the design; it's beautiful. It'll really complement everything that's going on out there. So it's good to have them out there.
Yes, it is.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kayler.
Aye. Commissioner Rhodes?
All right. Moving along. I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to execute change order number 1 with Florence and Hutchison for the Noble Park Pool and Renovation Project. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The mayor is hereby authorized and directed to execute change order number 1 in the amount of $40,995 to pay for additional engineering services for completion of the Noble Park Pool Renovation Project, increasing the total contract price to $184,195, which includes addendum number 1.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kayler.
Aye. Commissioner Wilson?
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to execute change order number 1 with Mid-States Construction, Inc. for the Noble Park Pool Renovations Phase 2 project. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The mayor is hereby authorized and directed to execute change order number 1 in the amount of $15,727.61 to remove an old asbestos hot water tank for the Noble Park Pool Renovations Phase 2 project, increasing the total contract price to $155,334.61.
Seconded.
All right, any discussion? All right. City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kayler.
Aye. Commissioner Galt, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance accepting matching grant funds through the Kentucky Division of Waste Management for 2013-2014 Household Hazardous Waste Grant for funding the annual City-County Cleanup Day, and authorizing the mayor to execute a grant agreement, an interlocal agreement with McCracken County, and all documents relating thereto. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah hereby accepts matching grant funds in the amount of $30,000 through the Kentucky Division of Waste Management for a 2013-2014 Household Hazardous Waste Grant to fund disposal services and an educational outreach program for the 2014 annual City-County Cleanup Day, and authorizes the mayor to execute a grant agreement, an interlocal agreement with McCracken County, and all documents relating thereto.
Second.
Any discussion? City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kayler.
Aye. We're going to our introduction of ordinances. We do not vote on these tonight. Commissioner Rhodes, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a management agreement between the City of Paducah and the Paducah-McCracken County Joint Sewer Agency for Information Technology Services. This ordinance is summarized as follows: that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute a management agreement between the City of Paducah and Paducah-McCracken County Joint Sewer Agency to fund and management information technologies IT services.
Second.
Hi, Greg.
Good evening. This agreement is an outline of the responsibilities that the City of Paducah provides the IT services for the Joint Sewer Agency. Furthermore, the agreement goes on to lay out the compensation that JSA will provide to the city for those services. We have had in the past an agreement with them, but it was structured a little bit differently. It was structured more on the premise of a shared employee. This is more of just a straight IT services agreement. I've collaborated with John Hodges on this, and his board has also authorized him to execute the agreement. So.
Any questions for John? Pretty cut and dried. Thanks, Greg.
It's all right.
You're not John, are you? All right, Commissioner Wilson, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Establishing and Approving the Roof Stabilization Assistance Program and Authorizing the Director of Planning to administer the program and provide financial assistance to eligible applicants for repair of deficient roofs in the Paducah Downtown Historic District." This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance shall be known and may be cited as the Roof Stabilization Assistance Ordinance of the City of Paducah. It is intended to establish and facilitate roof replacement and roof rehabilitation by property owners within the Downtown Historic District, referred to as Map Number 1, to combat roof problems that endanger the general health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants and visitors to the area within the historic district that has been placed on the National Registry. Property owners will be eligible to apply for financial assistance that shall not exceed 50% of the construction cost or 50% of the fiscal year stabilization funds. The ordinance directs the Director of Planning to administer the program and grants authority to the Urban Renewal and Community Development Agency to oversee the allocations. Further, the ordinance defines procedures for emergency roof repairs by the city.
Second.
Okay, City Manager, you want to talk about this a little bit?
This ordinance comes to you tonight after probably a year or so of work. I think the impetus for this program concept had to do with a demolition issue that arose a couple of years ago, in which the significance of roof deterioration was recognized. I think it was that night that the phrase demolition by neglect was coined, and it seemed to resonate. And the PRA former director began working on this program and looking at various components of it, everything from how we would fund it to how we would administer it. As you know, some funding was proposed in this year's budget ahead of the introduction of this ordinance. Over the past 6 weeks, particularly, Steve Irvin, our planning director, has taken over the finalization of this ordinance and made some very significant tweaks and refinements to it to bring it forward to you tonight. In the course of that, I want to say that it became very apparent to me, very obvious, that the place for this program to reside, should you elect to approve it, is in fact with the planning department, as we, I think, developed a stronger recognition of the compatibility of administering a program like this in a department where not only a number of the templates existed that were drawn from for this, but a very experienced staff in the administration of these sort of programs.
Thank you. Steve, do you have anything to add to that?
I have a short presentation if you would like.
Sure.
For the general public. Okay, yeah. The first, I just have a paragraph here, and this is from the National Park Service, and it's from a preservation brief number 4. And it says a poor roof will permit the accelerated deterioration of historic building materials, masonry, wood, plaster, paint, and will cause general disintegration of the basic structure. Furthermore, there is an urgency involved in repairing a leaky roof, since such repair costs will quickly become prohibitive. This is a picture, obviously, of the Kresge building. And from that last paragraph, I was told from a reputable contractor 3 to 4 years ago that this fix would have probably been about $1,500. So that's kind of why we're talking about this program. Why roof stabilization? The repair stabilization of roofs within the historic downtown will protect our historic built environment, which is obviously very important to Paducah. It will also further reduce decline, which may lead to greater expenditures by the city of Paducah in the future. The purpose of it, there's really 2 parts. The first is it's intended to facilitate roof replacement, rehabilitation by property owners with a defined district. These are the existing business owners within the downtown area that want to or need their roofs replaced. It is also intended to facilitate roof stabilization by the city of Paducah when a structure has been determined to need emergency stabilization. This stabilization will stop the decline that could lead to greater city expenditures and/or demolition in the future. The program area, this is the map. It generally is from 7th Street to Water Street and from Kentucky to Jefferson. There is a couple of areas that butt out, as you can see. Some of the general provisions, these are just a few. Only property owners within that defined area can receive assistance or apply. We're going to require third-party construction estimates as part of the application. The grants, as written earlier, shall not exceed 50% of the construction costs for the roof and shall not exceed 50% of the fiscal year funds. Administration, after we receive the applications, the planning department, we will review those and forward them to the Urban Renewal and Community Development Agency for consideration. Applications in excess of $50,000 shall require approval from the City Commission. Applications will only be accepted after a public notice stating that the City of Paducah is accepting proposals. Review, when Urban Renewal receives the applications, they will look at them and take into consideration the urgency of the roof stabilization. Is the structure listed on the National Register of Historic Places? What is its historic relationship within the district? And is there a capital commitment by the property owner to rehabilitate the remaining structure? Disbursements will only be made after a written request has been submitted by the property owner, that there's a certification in place that all costs have been paid in full by the property owner, and a certification that the construction is in accordance with the plans that were submitted as part of the application. The second part of that is of the program is the emergency roof stabilization. They can only be used for emergency stabilization. The City Commission in this section will approve projects that exceed $20,000. There is criteria also to be followed. Without stabilization, the roof would be in danger of collapse, or without stabilization, further decay would result in increased utilization of program funds, and the structure is located within the program area, and it's a contributing structure on the National Register of Historic Places. What next with approval of this ordinance? The planning department will review and document structures needing emergency repair, and I'll certainly will talk to other departments about that process. And we also will proceed with a public notice requesting applications. And that's my short presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you all have any.
Now tell me again which buildings qualify?
Only buildings located within the defined district, and that's from
Right.
2nd Street to Water Street, Kentucky to Jefferson generally.
But they don't have to be on the historic.
They have to be contributing structures on the National Register of Historic Places. That's correct. A majority of those are,
Okay.
A majority, but not all.
but not all.
And what if some of them really are buildings that are important, but they're not on that list?
The way that the ordinance is written now, they would not qualify for approval, or would not be eligible for funds. Well, let me back up a little bit. Right now, that's a 25%. They could be funded, but they would not get as high of a score if one was a contributing structure on the National Register of Historic Places.
So if you had 3 people applying and only one of them was a contributing structure on the National Historical Register,
Mm-hmm.
they would get, they
More
would
points in that
get
area.
more points than the other two.
Under that criteria, which is 25%, there is 75% also that can be graded on other areas. So on that section, they certainly would score higher.
So I guess what I'm trying to say, how weighted is it toward those structures?
Would you like me to go through that criteria real quick?
Well, I didn't know if you just had a figure in your mind of how weighted
It's 25%.
25%.
25%
toward those.
towards contributing structure on the National Register of Historic Places. That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. Any other questions?
When I was on PRA and we talked, stuff like this kind of comes up, and it's like, somebody would say, well, where'd it come from? Well, in PRA, we've talked about this when I was on the board 6 months ago and for the previous year or two. It's just, you got to do it. I know it makes some people incredibly nervous when the city wanders off into private enterprise, but you just can't have your built historic downtown just fall to pieces and stand by and say, oh, well, there it goes. Who cares? You just can't do it. Thanks. I personally thank you.
Thank you.
I too think it's a good program. My question is, hypothetically, if we have a building owner and we know that a $1,500 fix would take care of the program, how do we steer them into investing their portion?
We would hope that they would go through the application process, which is the first part of the ordinance. So certainly, if we hear from somebody like that, they can contact us. At some point here in the near future, we'll go through the public notice to accept applications, and they could certainly be thrown into that pool at that time.
I think one of the things that, it's been suggested to me that along with this ordinance, we should somehow accept the practical challenge of maintaining an ongoing inspection of all the buildings in the area to know just where they may be in terms of need and that sort of thing. And of course, that gets to be difficult down to probably, when you get to that level of a $1,500 fix, we wouldn't necessarily be aware of it.
Right.
So I think we're going to try to create awareness as soon as possible through incentives here and just maybe from a preservation point of view, just creating a stronger awareness of the significance of roof stability to the preservation of the building. So we'd hope we could do a lot of $1,500 repairs because there'd be a lot of spread of the money around. But in all likelihood, we'll come in above that, probably more than we will at that level.
Well, and I think we all, understand how important downtown is to the city, because if you don't have a vibrant downtown, you don't have much.
Yes, and those stabilization funds as part of this process, certainly, hopefully, that can be used with the private investment to actually rehabilitate the structures and have them reoccupied. This may be a small part of that process, but hopefully it is.
Because anyone that looks at any of the buildings that we have downtown, they're looking at a pretty sizable investment.
Yeah.
And so this should incentivize some of that. Right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
City Manager, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Galt, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Authorizing the Purchase of 3 2013 Ford Police Interceptor Pursuit Vehicles for use by the Paducah Police Department." This ordinance is summarized as follows: that the Finance Director is authorized to pay the total sum of $90,707.01 to Crossroads Ford Lincoln, Inc. for the purchase of 3 2013 Ford Police Interceptor vehicles for the City of Paducah's Police Department in compliance with the Kentucky State Publishing Contract.
Need a second.
I can't second it because I'm going to speak against it.
I'll second it so we can discuss it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor Commission,
You want to go ahead and speak first?
Okay. Mayor Commission, this is an annual, purchase we make for our fleet vehicles for the police department, and we're exercising, the use of the state contract for these vehicles. State police, sheriff's departments, others buy off the state contract, and this provides us an efficient, effective way of making these purchases for the city of Paducah.
I know some of the commissioners want to discuss it, but how many municipalities and counties use this procurement process?
All are afforded the opportunity to use it. I don't have that
You don't
data
know how many
available to
do.
me this evening for that, but I know that anybody in this, any municipality or county government within the state of Kentucky can use this.
It's based on the projected use of it that the numbers are projected, I think, that are sent out with the bid information to dealers across the state. Wouldn't that be logical?
Jeff, I'm not sure how it's competitively bid that all dealers within the state of Kentucky can compete for these, contracts. For example, locally, we have two state contractors, the local case dealer on North 8th Street. He's a state, provider of case equipment for certain vehicles or certain pieces of equipment. An agricultural dealer here in Paducah sells tractors to the state, throughout the state, and we buy from them as well on state contracts. So it's just something that we exercise. The reason we do this is to be efficient and to look after your tax dollars as well. I know we have local business people that are in this business, but when we run the normal, procurement process, we have to advertise it. There's money in the paper to advertise it. There's about 4 to 6 week delay because we have to run it through the commission after we get the winning bidder. Typically, we only have one bidder because we want to buy Ford vehicles. We've experimented in the past. I'm going to go into, a more lengthy discussion because it might be helpful here. The Ford Crown Vic was the officer's choice of patrol cars. It was seen throughout the country for that. In 2011, Ford decided to quit building that piece of equipment and to revamp it. At that time, we said, well, let's try some different makes. We tried 5 Chevy Impalas. Over the course of the next year, we tried 5 Dodge Chargers. Police department, feel free to chime in here. And to find out with the PD what would be their vehicle of choice. They discounted the Impala for various reasons due to, police needs. The Charger performed well, but still they prefer to go back to the Ford vehicle because this seems to be the vehicle of choice across the nation. So to try to provide, a fleet of like kind for interchangeability of parts. For example, we maintain a fleet garage and we don't need to try to keep every make of car running for our police department because that means that we would have to maintain parts and service and be trained on Chevrolet, parts and service and be trained on Dodge, parts and service and be trained on Ford. So that doesn't sound too efficient, as opposed to try to find the vehicle of choice for the police department and maintain that fleet likewise, again, for efficiencies for that. So when it comes time to purchasing, there's only one dealer in town when you're running a bid process, and typically for the last 3 years that we've done that, when we compared the bid price to the state price, the local dealer was $300 higher than the state. When we discussed that with them, they were saying, well, we need to pay for the shipping of getting the vehicle here. But through that, we also provide them with all the warranty work and service work that's done outside the shop because they are the local dealer for that. So when that work is needed, it's taken out there, and then that business is provided locally. But the actual purchase of the vehicle through the state contract is not.
But this was the dealer that was chosen from a bidding process throughout the state of
From a competitive bidding process, yes, ma'am.
to be the supplier for this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Having been a new car dealer for 26 years, bottom line, when I was a new car dealer and somebody bought a car that I sold and it wasn't for me, it's a downer. It's distasteful. I'm not suggesting the city of Paducah would spend extra money. But what I am saying is that if we have a local business who sells the same car that the state Crossroads Ford is able to sell, then we have a benchmark. We know, so it's not like that we're going to get hosed and get a bad price. But we ought to be able to give Paducah Ford the opportunity to give us a bid. I mean, it just is. You know, when you are in the car business, you just don't like to see somebody put a car, another dealer, in your town. You know, you can call it pride, you can call it anything you want to call it. Okay, so it takes a few extra weeks to run an ad, and maybe there's a few bucks for that. But you know, these people pay a lot of tax. They're part of our community, and we ought to give them a chance to procure our police cars. Now, the fact is, whether you're the largest Ford dealer in the world or the tiniest, the cars cost the same amount of money. There is no volume discount. That is a long misunderstood concept. And in fact, if you're in the lower 48 states, it doesn't matter if you're in Bangor, Maine, or in San Diego, California, the freight's the same. It's equalized. Now, in Alaska and Hawaii, it's different. The incentive from the state, when you bid on Ford or Dodge or whoever car you bid on, I mean, the manufacturer says, look, for the state of Kentucky, for police cars, we're going to give X number of dollars, and it doesn't matter who bids, it's the same. So there is no reason that the local dealer cannot be a successful dealer if he chooses to be competitive. And since we know what Crossroads Ford, or whoever will be the dealer in the future, what the price is, then we can very quickly and very efficiently say, okay, Paducah Ford is competitive, or whoever bids on these, or not. But at least we get the opportunity of a local dealership being able to sell us our cars. And I think that's pretty reasonable in this day and age. Sorry, I couldn't support sending the money out of town. I just think it's incumbent upon us, when we can buy a product competitively and priced from a local vendor, then we should do it. And we shouldn't take the money out of town. Period.
Okay, I'm a little. So you're saying that no matter where it's shipped in the 48 states, it's the same?
The freight's the same. Freight's equalized.
So when they said that it was going to cost $300 extra to have it shipped, that's not really correct?
Of course not. Freight's equalized. It doesn't matter. In fact, if you were downtown Ford in Louisville, Kentucky, back when they used to make Crown Vics at the Fern Valley Road assembly plant, your freight was the same as if you were in Paducah, Kentucky, or if you were in Bangor, Maine.
Or two blocks from there?
Yes, it's all the same.
I don't know. I'm just.
I mean, it's just again, if each one of us is the Ford dealer, we operate on one sheet. There is no different pricing because you're a little dealer and I'm a big dealer and you're a medium-sized dealer. No, it's the same. It doesn't matter if you order. The littlest dealer in the state of Kentucky used to be Eubanks Ford, north of Somerset, out of a Gulf gas station. He operated on the same price sheets that Paul Miller Ford in Lexington operated on. There is no discount to the dealership on new cars. If they are priced, if they're equipped the same, they are the same price.
And I'm not disagreeing with that. It's just the method of purchase of which is being, I guess, discussed. And for example, it's my understanding that this mayor, this commission, wishes for us to be the most efficient in cost savings as we can be for the procurement process for the items we need. That's the direction that I've taken with our fleet. For example, the tractors we buy, I don't want to advertise, but we buy John Deere tractors because we have a local dealer that is the state contractor for John Deere. When we buy a backhoe, we buy it from Case on North 8th Street, from McKeel Equipment, because they are the state dealer for that, and it's it's there for that. However, when we get
All
ready.
I'm asking is just let Paducah Ford or the commission, I mean, if the local dealer wants to bid and he can be competitive with the state, okay, so we spend a few extra hours of advertising there, a few extra dollars. But my goodness, in fairness to the local dealership who can meet the state's price, why wouldn't we? I can't imagine why we would say, let's spend the money with Crossroads in Frankfurt instead of Paducah Ford, if it's the same price, or if Paducah Ford might be. I mean, if it's essentially the same price, why wouldn't we?
The history,
How we would justify
the history of these purchases, Commissioner Rhodes, and you can look in the history of that. Paducah Ford actually marks the vehicles up $300 to $400.
We don't know what they do,
Let's
Rick.
not
I'm sorry.
get
That's
into
not.
specifics of
All I'm saying
what we
here,
think people.
cars should be, local dealers should be given the opportunity for us to buy cars from them is for going out of town, and that's all I'm going to say.
I
and
think
that's how I'm gonna
Rick's
vote.
point could be summarized this way, that our experience has told us that the state price has not been met typically
But we should
locally.
give them the choice. Or the
I
chance.
agree, periodically we should, to verify that that is happening or not. The question is, when do we do that? Do we want to take this away and restart this process, which would involve several weeks, or do we want to make it a decision for next year to allow that bid process next year to provide that quote-unquote litmus test for how a local dealer can do vis-a-vis the state bid? We're out of the chute with this one. We would have to back up sometime.
And we use this process with everything that we buy.
Not necessarily everything.
No.
No.
Just major items like
Items that are available, for example, your next item is you're buying rollouts for trash containers. They're a state bid item. We're actually using a state contract for that as well. It's where we can maximize efficiencies and minimize prices. That's what I feel like our job is to do. However, if the commission, mayor and commission, wishes for us to take, I guess, alternative purchasing methods, I need direction, and my department needs direction, and I think your finance department needs direction as well. For you all to set policy on that, because it's very uncomfortable for me to attempt to be maximizing efficiency that is apparently, not what you want. So I need direction so that we don't have these, uncomfortable moments in the future.
Rick, I have a question back on you said the local companies that have the state contract bid. I think you mentioned Case.
McKeel Equipment.
Okay. Do other municipalities across the state buy from them?
I'm sure they do.
So
But
they do sell across the state.
Yes, they do.
So they have the advantage from there by having the state contract.
I guess, Commissioner, that is why they choose to compete when the state puts out those, contracts. They have to compete to win those state contracts across the state, as do others.
Which they have done, and they have that, and
they
those
choose to compete.
companies buy from them there.
And those are awarded yearly, correct? Or
I don't know if they're awarded yearly or
periodic
twice a year. I don't know.
okay.
Does any Ford dealer sell a Ford Police Interceptor vehicle?
Yes.
They all do. So if they want to sell it, they bid on it from the state.
There's a myriad of ways to, procure that. But your model procurement code requires, if you're going to bid an item, it has to follow your procurement. Now, if we put out a bid, we can't state a brand. That's something I want you to research. You can't come out and state a manufacturer. You state specifications.
If we were to put it out to bid, that's what we would have to do.
You'd say,
Couldn't say we want a Ford.
I want a four-door sedan with this much horsepower, with rear wheel or front wheel drive, and then any of the dealers can bid on that. And then you'll come to a situation where you are winding up with multiple manufacturers in the same fleet.
No, you don't have to. I'm sorry. I disagree. You can write the specs. It's not that tough, Rick. You know it's not. Yeah. All I'm saying is, why wouldn't we not give a local leadership the opportunity to bid on these vehicles?
Jeff, I need some direction.
Well, I think you summed it up, Rick. It would be the city commission, if they want to establish policy on this to
Thank you.
direct that, then that's their option.
Okay. I'm sorry, that's,
So Alan, you're just only concerned with the vehicles.
well, vehicles, tractors, I mean, things that we have a chance.
Nothing else that's
Things
to be bought local. Because we do buy other things that, I mean, we've had that come
I
up in the
think if
past,
we can
too.
buy something local.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
at a
Oh, we've had it
competitive price, then we
once.
ought to
Yeah.
do it.
There are cities that, quite frankly, don't allow purchasing on state contract for the keep it local reason. I mean, I've seen that done.
I mean, here we're talking about USEC going out of business and losing 1,100 jobs. It would seem to be incumbent upon us to do as much business with our local businesses as we can.
And I get,
It cost us more money.
I get that, but here's the
I'm not saying we have to spend
contradiction.
more I'm not saying we have to spend
But
more
what
money.
if we did have to spend more money?
But that's our decision.
But historically, I think what Rick's trying to,
Decision.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I'm sorry.
Historically, I think what I'm hearing from Rick, and I could be incorrect, is that when looking at a specific brand to buy it locally, it has cost more money. So this is the route that he's chosen to take. Historically, that's the pattern that I think I'm hearing him say.
And my recommendation is, short of establishing a policy to not allow that, is occasionally go through the process to verify that, in fact, we are saving money on the state bid or aren't. I don't think,
But then that still sends that we want to send the business somewhere else. Why not just say, look, if their local vendor can supply it and it's competitive with the state price, that because we're always going to know the state price, then it'd be very simple to say, okay, Paducah Ford or whoever, you're competitively bid it, so we give it the business to you versus, and if they're not, then fine, Crossroads, you get another sale.
So how would, we don't know the state price, though, until you bid it, right?
That's, you always know that.
You always know it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you're saying is take that state price and go to the local dealer and say, can you match that?
Basically, I mean, you won't.
Is that allowable?
not quite that simple.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think
No.
it,
You'd still have to go through a procurement process. I would think you would approach that similar to, okay, we would accept up to whatever percent over. I don't know how else you could do it by way of policy. If we want to do it at that level, we would agree to pay up to X percent. I mean, that's the only way I've ever seen those things written before, although they're not that common. And then you essentially allow the local to meet the state price up to 5% higher, and then they're eligible for the award.
Or maybe they have to meet the state price. I'm talking about an opportunity to bid
Well, sure, yeah. you
against a
can do it
known,
that way,
I
but
mean, here's the known price. So we're not going to get, it's not we're going to lose money or get hosed. I would just say on those items that we can buy in town, we ought to. I don't think that's, and I'm not saying we should spend more money, just give them the chance to bid. Whether it's a copy machine or a tractor or a car.
I don't know enough about this to.
All I know is that I've fought this for 26 years. When somebody buys out of town, a municipality, it's distasteful. It's like, really, guys? You know, I'm a taxpayer here. You couldn't have bought my truck or car. You had to go somewhere else to buy it. I mean, I fought that.
and I understand what you're saying.
I got a little different orientation on that.
We had this issue with the police uniforms.
We did. We've had it multiple times before.
We probably need to we probably just need to look at the policy then to decide if we are going to encourage our city purchasing to buy everything local that they can, or to stay with the bidding process and state contract. And that's probably a bigger discussion than this. I mean, that's a decision that we would need to make on
and
what's
a much more
possible.
complex discussion, because as you
Right.
recall, the one on the police uniforms got into issues of service as well as upfront price. And
Right. It wasn't a cut and dried A, B.
And of course, in this case, Paducah Ford's doing the service work anyway. So, but you're right.
Okay. So do we want to give the city manager direction to look into Are we going to have a workshop on this, City Manager?
Well, it's simply on here for introduction tonight.
Right.
You don't have anything on the agenda about
Right.
a policy with any procurement policy.
All right.
And I guess I'll take feedback from you individually if you care to.
All right. Commissioner Rhodes, please.
Okay. How about some rollouts? I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of rollout containers from Toter, is that it?
Toter.
Toter Incorporated for the Engineering, Public Works, and Solid Waste Division. This ordinance is summarized as follows, that the City of Paducah hereby authorizes the Finance Director to make payment to Toter Incorporated for the purchase of rollout refuse containers, lids, and fittings for the 2013-2014 fiscal year in an amount not to exceed the city's budgeted amount of $80,000. These containers will be used by customers within the city limits of Paducah served by Solid Waste Division, Engineering Public Works Department. This purchase is made in compliance with the Kentucky State Purchasing Contract. Second?
I'll second it for purpose of discussion. So where do you stand on this, Commissioner Rhodes?
I'm okay.
Why would you be okay with
Well,
this one?
is there anybody in town that sells Toter garbage rollouts? I don't guess there is.
No, there's not a manufacturer and or a supplier here.
So I'm completely okay.
And no one sells this in Paducah? This kind of rollout?
We're actually changing, the toter that we're getting or the rollout that we're getting is a little bit more heavy duty than the new ones that we used to buy. They've thinned the wall, so now when our truck grabs it, it doesn't last as long. So we're buying a better, rollout.
These are the new ones that had the higher roof on it. And
No.
We're actually buying these. I think these people actually, they make them and sell them. There is no intermediary.
We're buying them, yeah, we're just buying them through toter.
Yeah.
It's a Kentucky state contract vendor
Right,
as
but
well.
but Toter bills it and sells it, so there's no middleman even. So, yeah, no problem.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Commissioner Wilson?
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance, well, that's the roof. Which one is, I don't have another one.
Item E.
Carson Center
You have the
contract.
thing.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with the Luther F. Carson Forward Center, Inc. for specific services. This ordinance is summarized as follows, that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute a contract with the Luther F. Carson Four River Center, Inc. in the amount of $66,685 to provide an extensive youth performance schedule and continuing their tradition of the Class X series. This contract shall expire June 30th, 2014.
Second.
All right.
And this is part of our annual
Arts.
contribution to the arts, and theirs is just being highlighted tonight. There are plenty of other organizations within the arts that will also be receiving funding from the city of Paducah.
Correct.
This is that formulaic.
Yeah, the I call them a consortium has
Yes.
devised a formula. I think it's a very excellent system. It seems to be workable for the recipients, and we have a contract for each one of those. Any of those contracts that exceed $20,000 come before you all for subsequent approval to budget. The ones that are $20,000 or less, I execute under my authority.
And these are all based on economic impact
Mhm.
of these groups to the
Yeah.
community.
You'll
That's
see
the
various
formula.
sites associated with the type of entertainment that is offered there regarding involvement of folks in the community and so on and so forth.
Okay, Commissioner Galt, please.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Paducah, Kentucky approving the AIA Design Build Construction Agreement as amended and supplemented among the City of Paducah, Kentucky, the County of McCracken, Kentucky, and A&K Construction, Inc. with respect to public project. Authorizing the execution of the AIA Design Build Construction Agreement and other documents related thereto. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance authorizes the City of Paducah, Kentucky, the city, to approve an AIA Design Build Construction Agreement as amended and supplemented along the City of Paducah, Kentucky, the County of McCracken, Kentucky, and A&K Construction, Inc., the agreement for the furtherance of the construction and installation of a customer care center approved under the provision of ordinance number 2012-11-7986, adopted on November 13th, 2012, and municipal order number 1716, adopted March 22nd, 2013.
Second.
Any discussion here?
If I could make a couple of comments. The information associated with this is all contained in the memo and within the agreement itself. There was a fair amount of value engineering that took place with the award. So due credit to A&K Construction and TeleTech for engaging to do that and bring the eventual contract award down to what it is. I would also point out that this process of getting this to the point of where it is tonight was fairly lengthy and fairly complex, in part because this is the first design-build method of procurement the city has ever executed, so to speak. A deliberate choice of words. I worked as project manager with a committee of 5 people throughout that process, lengthy process and very involved process, and I want to recognize the members of that committee, including a representative from TeleTech, but locally we had involved from the county, Mr. David Flowers. We also had involved Stan Echtenberg from Paducah Economic Development. Also assisting alongside, but not on the committee with me in this process, were Rick Murphy and Steve Doolittle, who made very important contributions. Last of all, and most of all, I want to recognize the contributions made by Doug Moore to this process, who helped educate me to the procurement side of design build and processes involved all the way from the RFP to issuance of multiple addendums and presentations, review of presentations, and so on and so forth. So I really, hats off to Doug Moore for his contributions to this as well as the others. And I can say on behalf of the entire evaluation committee and I think the community that we're happy to be at this point, and we look forward to this project getting underway and the fruits of the project to begin to be realized.
Thank you. All right, city manager's report.
We have an executive session regarding economic development. Also, this past week, John, there's something you would like to mention for the record?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. For the record, at the advice of our bond counsel, for bond compliance purposes and tax rules relating to the disposition of proceeds, bond proceeds that is, I need to report to you that the Sheen Bridge Road property closing took place last week. The city netted $809,094 at closing, and those funds will be applied toward another capital project at the riverfront within the next 12 months.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I had asked Rick to share a progress update on the riverfront project. I don't know that Rick is here yet. Would you check, Mark? Let you all know how that's going. I think everybody was generally aware that the high water in the river has impeded progress on that project, but they're back underway in various ways, so hopefully Rick will can be found to give you a little overview of that.
Mayor, how about a good news story?
A what?
You want a good news story?
From you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks a lot. From me. Yeah, from me. Gee.
Yes.
Let me shine my halo up. Noah Adams, who is a...
Don't write that down.
Noah Adams, who is a National Public Radio person. He's more than just a reporter. He's been co-anchor of All Things Considered, the afternoon program. Anyway, Noah Adams.
It's a good story.
It's a good story. He called Steve Doolittle a couple of days ago and said, look, I'm doing a series of, I don't know, a dozen and a half stories about comebacks. And he said, I'd like to talk to you all about the artist relocation program. So Steve called me and said, hey, you want to get in on this? And I said, yeah. I said, I've listened to Scal all my life because I'm a big NPR fan. And so this afternoon, for about 2 hours, we sat at the coffee house and talked about the artist relocation program. And Noah Adams said that he's chosen about 18 projects to do around the country. He said there'll only be one city story. And he said Paducah and the artist relocation program is the one city story he's going to do. I think last week he did one on the cleaning up of the Cheat River in West Virginia. But it was kind of nice to see a national story that will probably air on NPR maybe late next week would be my guess. We'll get heads up, and I guess I can get the information to Pam Spencer. But it was a good. I mean, it should be a good positive story about how a very blighted neighborhood became a kind of a nice thing for the city of Paducah and for its residents.
I've got a great story about that too. I should have been there.
Well, you just weren't on the invitee list, I guess. But it was great for me.
My story's about how I went around to all the neighbors when we were first starting on the artist relocation program. And I was the president of the neighborhood association, so working with the inspection department, I canvassed the neighborhood to talk to people about the plan for the neighborhood and the things that they would need to do to their properties. And I came back and told Joel Scarborough that the first thing he should purchase are Kevlar jackets.
I think he took that seriously.
Because they said they'd shoot him.
Well, anyway, so.
Rick is back.
Mayor Commission Jeff asked me to give you an update on our projects on the riverfront. We have experienced some high water in the month of July that we haven't had since 1998, which was 15 years ago. And Murphy's Law is well at work here on this. Our contractor, Mac Construction, on the riverfront, what you all refer to as the bump out project, is they're making adjustments. They're putting in what they call sheet piling, so they can put 2 machines down there offloading the barges. We've got already 100,000 tons of material placed. I don't know if you've been on the site. We've got a lot of passerbys that come down and walk out into Schultz Park and observe the activity. They'll stand or watch for 20 or 30 minutes to an hour to see what's going on. But you may see some large 36-inch diameter pipes that are, some portions of them look rusty and some portions of them look black. The rusty part is what gets driven down into the river bottom, and then the black part is what will be exposed to the atmosphere, and those are actually going to be the guides for your gangway that will go down, that will not be put in for at least maybe 9 months to a year, but we've got to get these pieces put in first because they're associated with the fill that's going in. Project's moving along nicely, but we have had some adversity that Mac Construction has overcome, and they're very diligent. Some days they've worked 24/7 to keep up. They've had a few little, hiccups. Some of their first offloading experience off the barges that the machines were sitting on were twisting, and then the rock that they were placing in the water was coming up underneath the barge. So as the machine would turn, the barge would rub on the rock below the surface that actually wore a hole in the barge, and then the barge started to sink, and so they had to get pumps and pump it out and get their machine off of it and take it to dry dock and fix it. We're beyond all that now. Now we're offloading to land where the barge has a place to pull up, and the machines are actually offloading from land and loading the trucks and moving on. So that project has been very difficult in nature. Also, our boat launch project at 8th and Burnett to 6th and Burnett up and over the flood wall. I know there have been several people that have been using the trail and going over this area and seeing the activity down there. I would invite all of you all, if you would like to, walk down the trail and view towards the river. You could actually see all the work that's taking place down there. We've been working diligently with the utility companies at 6th and Burnett. That intersection has proved to be very difficult to build adjacent to the flood wall and get all that, graded, that it all works for a transportation network, a trail network, and then also the utilities in that area. But all of the projects are coming along nicely, and we're in good shape right now. I don't anticipate any more high water on the Ohio. I will tell you that Commissioner Rhodes said that, you know, he quoted that I would try to move heaven and earth to get these projects done. And when this high water came, I made a phone call to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Miss Deborah Lee, who is the reservoir manager for all this area. She manages all the lakes and streams upstream of us and downstream of us. And I'm like saying, I need 25 feet, and I've got 34 feet. I got to get the river down to 25 feet so I can continue to offload the barges for this project that has money, that is on a short schedule. And they were quick to tell me, said, well, Rick, if we can't make it move for Olmsted Dam, I don't know that we can make it move for you. So I'm like, I understand a project that's about 1.4, 1.5 billion against our 3 million is, I don't think I can get ahead of that. So we'll deal with what we get. So, but that kind of shows you the extent of how far we attempt to go to get help. So
I thought when you said you'd move heaven and earth, that you might say I thought you.
I didn't plan on a flood.
Heaven.
So, but that's where we stand with those projects.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick. And we need an executive session for economic development.
Who has that?
I
Rhodes?
drew the short straw. I move the board go into closed session for discussion of matters pertaining to the following topics. Let's see. A specific proposal by a business entity where public discussion on the subject matter would jeopardize the location, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business entity as permitted by KRS 61.810(1)g.
Jeff, does that include a discussion of acquisition of property from what he just read, or do we need another one?
There's no one. Do I read that one too?
Yes.
Future sale or acquisition of specific parcels of real estate as permitted by KRS 61.810(1)b.
I'd like to add that as well.
I can put check marks if that's okay, Tammy.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Did we get a
Need a
second?
You get a second?
Second.
Okay.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Kayler.
Aye.
All right. There you go.
Meeting is adjourned.